Hello, German 2B. Today we're going to do our first set of notes for the course. That would be notes number 1, and it's over adjective endings. We use one set of adjective endings when the adjective is following der or one of the der words, like dieser, jeder, welcher. There's a different set of adjective endings we'll worry about later. That's notes number 3 that come after our ein words. So not focusing on those today, just the der words, der and the der words. In class, we have filled in together your adjective endings cheat sheet. So if you don't have a copy of that, I do have a copy of it up on my website, so you can download it there, or a copy of someone else's, it's just notes. But that cheat sheet has all the adjective endings for the der and after ein. This set of notes, we're just gonna worry about the adjective endings that go after der. Okay, so so let's go ahead and get started on that set of notes. Here we go. So as you can see here, I have filled in all of our der words: nominative, accusative, dative, genitive, masculine, feminine, neuter, plural. We spent a lot of time learning these over the years, okay? And below, I have the corresponding adjective endings. Now, I always fill in the ENs first because I think it's really interesting to notice that for some of our scenarios, that's the cat. For some of our scenarios, you don't have to think. If your noun is plural, no matter how you're using that noun, it's going to be EN as your adjective ending. If your noun is dative, or if your noun is genitive, no matter what the gender of that noun, your adjective ending is going to be EN. So when we see a plural or dative or genitive use, we're actually kind of excited because it's like, awesome, I don't have to think at all. It's automatically going to be an EN. Now, these other spots I left empty are mostly going to be just letter E's, except there's one other EN lurking somewhere out of these 6. Let's see if we can spot where it would go. It's not going to go in the nominative column. So if my noun is used as the subject of the sentence, unless it's plural, my adjective ending is going to be just a plain old E. Now, like I said, there is one more EN hiding up here. That EN, well, can you figure it out? Which of these, if these are all E's, based on everything you've learned up until now in German, which of these would be the most likely to have the N on the end? If you were thinking about masculine accusative, how our der turns to dane, you are on it. That's where the other EN is going to go. And then these guys stay E's here. Another way I like to think about this chart actually is like this. Maybe since most of my endings are EN, I don't really have to bother learning them at all. Maybe I just need to remember that E's go in these 5 spots. And if I can remember that alone, I'm kind of good. So 2 ways to think about it. Regardless, the interesting challenge of our adjective endings isn't memorizing necessarily the endings because it's a 50-50 shot. Frankly, it's more than 50-50. If you're ever in doubt, you're going to guess EN, right? So it's one or the other. It's not like you have a whole lot of options going on here. So what our goal really is with the adjective endings is being kind of a detective, looking at the sentence, and instead of really fussing, worrying whether it's going to be this type of ending, the E or the EN, really kind of trying to decipher, is my sentence the subject, nominative, or I should say, is my noun the subject, aka nominative, or is it accusative, dative, or genitive? This is really an opportunity for us to finally get this business with the genders and the cases under control. So we're going to do some examples here, and the emphasis really isn't so much on the E or the EN. I mean, again, it's kind of almost like a 50-50 guess, right? I mean, frankly, more than 50-50. If you're ever in doubt, you're going to guess EN, right? Because there's more of those. We're going to actually look at these sentences and use the adjective ending as a means to start analyzing our nouns and how they're used so that we can better pick whether a noun is nominative, accusative, dative, or genitive, or even its gender, masculine, feminine, neuter, or plural. So if you look at this first one, let's pretend this was a quiz or test. Now you can always have your cheat sheet out, right, on a quiz or test throughout all of level 2. But let's just pretend you didn't have it with you and you're stuck and, what's it going to be, right? There's a clue. There's a clue. Now this question is asking, where is the new student? There's a clue that my adjective ending is going to be an E. And that clue is right here. There's actually 2 clues. The first clue is this word D. So Schülerin is the word we use for a student who's a female, okay? And if you look at your chart, D is used whether your noun is nominative or accusative with a feminine noun. So when you saw that D, that was your clue that we were pretty much set to use the letter E. Now you might look and say, well, hold on, Mr. Welch, D also shows up in plural. And when a noun is plural, cha-ching, you don't have to think it's going to be EN. You're right. So at first glimpse, you might look at this and say, well, shoot, does that indicate that this noun's feminine? Like, for example, if you forgot what a Schülerin was, does that indicate this noun's feminine or plural? If you're in doubt, keep looking. There's another clue. Ist. Ist can't be used with the plural noun. Ist is my word for is. It's only used with a he, she, or an it. So kind of looking at the sentence and being a detective with a couple different spots, you were able to figure out that Schülerin is feminine instead of plural. You're also able to figure out that Schülerin is either nominative or accusative because of the use of the word D. So we use what was given to us to help us find the right answer. Now, for the record, it's nominative because Schülerin is the subject of the sentence and it has determined how I conjugated my verb. But to be frank, you didn't even need to know it to solve this one. Let's look at the next. Okay, I did have to cut that off there real quick, but I had basically finished my point. Someone decided to run across the whiteboard, although he just did it again. Anyway, let's look at number 2. Number 2 says we want to see the short film. Now, film is a word that we kind of know. I think when I ask most students, is film der, die, or das Film? Most students remember that it is der. So if you're trying to solve this one, you always have your adjective ending sheet available to you, okay? But if we're going to say the film, our word for the, being Dane, tells us that this noun is going to be accusative, okay? And if you think about it, it is accusative. It's the direct object. The film is not doing the verb. We are doing the verb. We want to see the film. So we have a couple clues that we can always use to determine the direct object. One of them is you think of it as like what's being verbed, what is being seen, the film. You could also think of it by asking that question, what, after the verb. So if you say, we want to see what, the answer to that question points you in the direction of the direct object. So identifying direct or indirect object is something we've kind of been working on off and on through German 1A, German 1B, and German 2A. It's a process. We'll keep working at it. So our noun being the direct object and using the word Dane for it tells us that it's accusative and it's masculine. My adjective ending is going to be EN. Okay. You could have solved it also, if you didn't remember the gender of film, by thinking about that word Dane, because Dane shows up twice. Dane shows up here. It also shows up with accusative. You could have processed through that it would not be the indirect object. That would be another way you could have thought of it, because dative is reserved for the indirect object. Kind of a tough one. Let's try 2 more. Number 3, I'm speaking with the old person from Switzerland. Fair enough. Now you got an immediate clue, and this is one that's kind of nice. It's not a big thinker. If you read this sentence and you see dame, it's a done deal because dame is only used with one case. The only case that uses dame is dative. And dative's one of our faves. When you have a noun that's dative, you don't have to think. Your ending is automatically going to be en. Okay? Another clue, if you had forgotten that dame is reserved only for nouns that are masculine, and you didn't have your cheat sheet handy, Maybe you would have remembered mit. Mit is one of our dative prepositions from Bam's Van. So that was an additional clue if you had perchance forgotten that dame is a word that we use with our masculine nouns and our neuter nouns in the dative. Okay, and let's look at the last one. Frau. Frau means woman. So it's automatically feminine. It's a person, okay? And hey, you got another clue right there. You're not going to use der with a noun that's feminine unless that noun is dative or genitive. And it's right here in our chart. We're pretty good at our der words. Der with a woman, with a female, is only going to be used in those two spots. And hey, those are our magic spots. Dative, genitive, and plural. You don't have to think. En. So ironically, we start looking forward to the dative and the genitive when we use our adjective endings. And there you have it. So you've written down the words for the, which is a review, and you've written down your adjective endings, and you've seen and hopefully written down 4 example sentences as well. However, in my opinion, that's not really enough. Now it's time to start practicing and honestly making mistakes. This is one of those concepts where you've got to make a good handful of mistakes before you can start to see the bigger picture. Sometimes you can learn something and you've got it and you're good to go. I don't think this is one of them. So we're going to do a lot of additional practice. I have materials of my own. We also have our test practice worksheet with loads of exercises. We're going to do some practice, go into them with an open mind, knowing you're going to make mistakes. But like I said, this is one where you sometimes have to make a mistake, have a discussion about it, figure out why you made the mistake, and then get some satisfaction from a similar item later and being able to avoid that mistake that you made initially. So lots and lots of practice. We're going to get there. I feel good about it. I hope you enjoyed this set of notes, and I'll catch you around soon. By the way, notes number 2 is not as important in the chapter as today's set of notes. So we're not going to worry too much about notes number 2. And I'll explain why when we get to it. But this is the doozy. This is the big one. So hope to see you all soon. Later.